Welcome, everybody, or welcome back to another segment of News You Can Use. So, my name is Mya Henry. For those of you who are not familiar with me, today is Friday, August 11th, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. And I'm going to be sharing the latest updates, insights, and trends that can make a difference in your life, not only in your life, but in your business as well. So, as usual, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys the most relevant news, trends, and practical tips. That way, you guys can stay ahead of the game if you apply them right away. So, without further ado, prepare yourselves for a very informative session, and it's going to empower you to have an edge as you are building your business. So let's jump right into it. So the first topic that I would like to get into is how students can save $1,000 per year on student loans. And the education department recommends that you guys follow a couple of tips. So I'm going to be sharing those tips with you guys today. So millions of borrowers are barreling toward the end of the student loan pause. The moratorium has suspended monthly payments and stopped all interest accrual for over 3 years. After President Biden signed federal spending legislation in June to avert a debt ceiling crisis, the pause is officially ending at the end of August. Interest starts accruing in September, and student loan payments resume thereafter, with the first billing due dates in October. The education department officials are just encouraging borrowers to take a few steps now to lower their student loan payments. So I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown. So there's a new SAVE plan, and this plan may lower student loan payments. Top education department officials are trying to get the message out about the saving on a valuable education, or also known as the SAVE plan, which is a brand new income-driven repayment plan officially unveiled earlier this summer. Borrowers will start saving money under the new plan, which will cut monthly payments to $0 for millions of borrowers making $32,800 or less individually. The cutoff is $67,500 for a borrower in a family of 4. And this is just what Education Secretary Miguel Cardona said in multiple emails to borrowers last month. So the new plan will save all other borrowers at least $1,000 per year in payments, he said. So SAVE's features include an expanded poverty exemption, which will increase the income threshold before borrowers are required to make a payment. The plan is also going to have a more favorable formula for most borrowers, which is going to result in lower monthly student loan payments, and the plan will waive excess interest accrual, protecting borrowers from the runaway balance growth that has been a hallmark of the IDR system for years. Another thing is that some borrowers will automatically receive benefits of new student loan payment plans. Not all borrowers will need to take action to qualify for SAVE. Borrowers who have direct federal student loans and are already enrolled in the repay plan will be automatically covered to the SAVE plan. The SAVE plan is replacing the repay plan. And for borrowers who previously enrolled in repay, the department will automatically enroll them in the SAVE plan and update their monthly payments as the new terms are implemented later this summer. Borrowers who are already in repay may still want to update their income information on file with the Department of Education. However, if their financial circumstances have deteriorated since their last application, borrowers can request a recalculation of their IDR payments under any IDR plan just by submitting a request to studentaid.gov. Other borrowers need to submit requests to change student loan repayment plan. So only borrowers currently enrolled in Repay will automatically be converted to the SAVE plan. Direct loan borrowers enrolled in other IDR plans, such as Pay as you earn or income-based repayment, also known as IBR, will need to submit a request to change plans at studentaid.gov. Direct federal student loan borrowers who haven't been in an IDR plan can also use the same portal to submit an IDR request, and they can now select the SAVE plan directly. While historically changing IDR plans resulted in interest capitalization, meaning any outstanding interest would be added to the loan principal, new student loan interest rules that went into effect on July 1st and interest capitalization for most IDR plan events, except for borrowers who leave the RBR plan. Also note that borrowers who are in the income contingent repayment ICR plan or the pay as you earn plan and choose to enroll in SAVE will not be able to return those plans after July 1st of 2024. And borrowers who have Parent Plus loans or direct consolidation loans that repaid Parent Plus loans are ineligible for SAVE. Some other important tasks to prepare as a student loan payments resume. So before the end of August, borrowers should also review an increasingly long checklist of tasks that is recommended by the Department of Education. And this includes verifying your current loan servicer, updating your contact information, and enrolling or re-rolling into auto debit. Borrowers should also be aware of upcoming deadlines to benefit from the IDR account adjustment. Some borrowers may need to consolidate in order to qualify or maximize benefits, and consolidation may be necessary for some borrowers to qualify for the SAVE plan. A new lawsuit could imperil the IDR account adjustment, although it is too soon to know how that legal challenge will play out. So that was the first thing that I wanted to share with you guys, just a little bit of information about student loans and how people who have student loans can go about that. So moving forward, I also want to share with you guys the #1 worst state in the US to retire. And surprisingly, it's not New York or California. So for the second year in a row, Alaska ranks as the worst state to retire. And this is according to a recent study by Bankrate. So to determine the best and worst places to study, Bankrate actually analyzed all 50 states and ranked them across 5 weighted categories. One of them being affordability, which is 40%, well-being with 25%, healthcare quality and cost 20%, weather with 10%, and crime with 5%. The financial services company used data from a number of sources, including the US Census Bureau and the Tax Foundation, and the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration. So in addition to the ranking last overall, Alaska actually placed 50th in the weather category, which it isn't surprising, and it's very understandable because winter temperatures can fall as low as -50 degrees Fahrenheit in some part of the state. However, it is ranked slightly higher for affordability, healthcare, and well-being. And despite being placed 20th on last year's list of best states to retire, New York actually came right behind Alaska, so in 49th place this year. And the Empire State is well known for its high cost of living, and it ranked last in Bankrate's affordability category, which isn't anything surprising. And on the other hand, New York actually scored higher in weather, healthcare, crime, and well-being categories. Meanwhile, in California maintained its standing as the 3rd worst state to retire. A massive housing shortage has caused living costs to rise, in the Golden State, and it was placed 49th place in affordability, following closely right behind New York City. So I'm going to share with you guys 5 best states for retirement and 5 worst states for retirement. So best states, top 5. In first place, it's Iowa. Right after Iowa, it's Delaware. West Virginia comes in third place, Missouri in fourth place, and Mississippi in fifth place. So those are the top 5 best states for retirement. And the worst states for retirement in 2023, we just said how Alaska was number 1. New York comes right after Alaska, California right behind New York, and after California is Washington, and after Washington, it's Massachusetts. And remember, choosing a location to retire is a personal decision, and you should take a number of different factors into account, including how much you plan to spend during retirement and what kind of activities you may be interested in pursuing. You might want to, or you may want to relocate closer to family or to a state with a lower cost of living if you already live somewhere that is expensive. If you're thinking about moving after you retire, experts actually recommend visiting your potential retirement destination and spending time there in order to get a feel of what it might be like to live there. So you can consider renting a place for 6 months to ensure that you have a community there. So set up your community before you take that leap. So those were just a few states that are the best for retirement and worst for retirement. So if anyone is looking to retire soon, I hope that this was helpful. And then one of the last things that I want to share with you guys before we reach the end of this segment is how 65% of unmarried millennial couples live together, but over half aren't sharing the cost equally. So moving in with your significant other, it can be exciting both emotionally and financially. You're not only taking a big step in your relationship, but there's a good chance that you as an individual may be able to cut down on some living expenses as a result of sharing costs with your partner. So it's not uncommon for millennial couples to move in together before they're married. 65% of unmarried millennial couples already have taken this step. And this is according to a recent survey from the Thriving Center of Psychology. And a majority of them, 61% of cohabiting millennial couples, cite financial reasons as a contributing factor. But the thing with that is that many do not share the costs equally. So 52% of millennial couples who live together don't split their rent or mortgage payment evenly. And that's just one of the few things that the survey found. And not every couple is happy with their setup. More than 1 in 3 couples surveyed said that they felt financially unequal in their relationships. But money can be a tricky subject to discuss with your significant other, but it's important to talk about, especially if you live together. How much will each person contribute to the bills? How will you handle discretionary spending when you do things together? So I'm going to share with you guys 3 tips for managing your money as a couple to help take some of the stress out of moving in together. So number 1, the first tip that I want to share is organize your shared expenses. So that just means, let's just say, for example, you get groceries, I'll cover takeout. You pay for the pet insurance, I'll cover their internet bill. So every couple has their own method for splitting costs. But however you and your partner decide to pay for things, it's a good idea to keep track of it. So Kelly, who's actually a certified planner based in Austin, Texas, she works with professional women and dual career couples. And she says that she often sees clients who routinely Venmo each other back and forth for things. So they may have a spoken or unspoken agreement to share costs and pay each other back for things like utility bills and groceries, but it just seems really disorganized. So she says that they were just going through the motions of what they've been doing since the early days of dating, where they were paying each other back via Venmo. And now, years later, they're still doing the same thing. And they're wondering why it feels off and why they're stressed out about their cash flow situation. So she encourages her clients to start keeping track both fixed and variable expenses and sort out who will pay for what and when. Another thing is opening a joint account can be helpful. It can help you simplify paying bills like rent, insurance premiums, and other fixed expenses. And she does encourage her clients to do that. And of course, keep your own accounts, but there is a way to streamline how you pay for things by opening up a joint checking account to pay for your fixed expenses together. So, number two, talk about what's yours, mine, and ours. So, there may be expenses that you and your partner don't agree on, and that's okay, especially if you have separate income streams. So, Kelly actually, in the early days of her own relationship, she and her husband ran into spending conflicts, which led them to create yours, mine, and ours accounts. Instead of both contributing to and spending from a single shared checking account, they started putting some money into their own accounts for personal purchases. So she says that they have their joint spending account, which was for things that they did together and shared expenses. But even that slight change where she wasn't looking at the transactions that he made that she didn't necessarily agree with helped remove that disagreement and nagging from their conversations about money. So it's not about hiding your spending habits from your partner, but rather having your own space and funds to do the things that matter to you. So there's got to be protection of our individual goals and values, and they're not always going to just keep the conversation going, right? So how you split costs may work now, but things can always change in the future. When you first move in together, you may split things down the middle by default. But as you go on, you may need to find a better system. Perhaps the couples towards splitting work towards splitting things more proportionally as it becomes clear one person's income will be consistently different from the other. And it's okay if things change as long as you're able to talk about it with your partner. At that point, as a couple, you're probably gonna have navigated a good number of money situations together, and you probably built up a healthy level of trust and understanding that has created common ground for handling money together in a more fair way. And talking about money, it can be awkward, it can even be uncomfortable. And even for couples who have been together for a very long time. But it is important that you are being transparent and communicative about your finances, especially if you're sharing resources and relying on each other's income. So Kelly also says that she encourages couples to make sure that they're having regular money dates so that each person understands the other's money story. It's one thing to go over numbers and to make sure there's enough income to cover your expenses as a couple. But she also says that it's helpful to understand where your partner is coming from and how they're making financial decisions so that you can have a more productive conversations and come up with solutions that make both parties comfortable. So I hope that was helpful, especially for couples that are living together and are in the process or feel like they need a newer way to manage or go about their finances. All right. So one more thing is how 80% of bosses say that they regret earlier return to office plans. So a lot of executives have eggs on their face. So after 3 years of haphazard plans for getting workers back at their desks, the return to office movement has entered a phase of remorse. So 80%, which is a huge number, 80% of bosses regret their initial return to office decisions and say that they would have approached their plans differently if they had a better understanding of what their employees wanted. So many companies are realizing that they could have been a lot more measured in their approach rather than making a big, bold, and very controversial decisions based on executives' opinions rather than employee data. So Envoy actually interviewed more than 1,000 US company executives and workplace managers who work in person at least one day out of the week. Some leaders lamented the challenge of measuring the success of in-office policies, while others said that it's been hard to make long-term real estate investments without knowing how employees might feel about being in the office weeks or even months from now. So Kathy, who's the consultant who advises corporate executives on their return to office plans, is now surprised that the percentage isn't higher. So many organizations that attempted to force a return to the office have had to retract or change their plans because of employee pushback. And now they don't even look strong. So a lot of executives just have a lot of eggs on their face and they're sad about that. The great resignation to the great regret. So as some business leaders accept hybrid work as a permanent reality, others are backtracking on earlier pledges to let employees work from home on a full or part-time basis. And as of July, 59% of full-time employees are back to being 100% on site, while 29% are in a hybrid arrangement and 12% are completely remote. And this is according to new recent data from work from home research. Offices are still only half full compared to their pre-pandemic occupancy. Across industries, major corporations, including Disney, Starbucks, and BlackRock, are requiring employees to spend more time at the office, with executives often citing the need for more in-person collaboration. And Zoom, this isn't anything new. Zoom is the latest reverse course, telling employees who live within a 50-mile radius of a Zoom office that they need to come in at least twice a week. It's a very abrupt shift from the company's previous policy, which allowed employees to choose between hybrid, in-person, and or permanent work, remote work. So we believe that a structured hybrid approach, meaning employees that live near an office need to be on site 2 days a week to interact with their teams, is most effective for Zoom. And this is coming from a company spokesperson who said in a statement to CNBC, and adding that the company will continue to leverage the entire Zoom platform to keep their employees and dispersed teams connected and working efficiently, and also hire the best talent regardless of location. The sunk cost of unused office space has been a major factor in companies' decisions to change their RTO approach. Even 6 months ago, companies were willing to eat these costs in a tight labor market to recruit and retain talent. But now some companies are getting impatient and want to recoup these large investments. In New York City, office space costs on average about $16,000 a year per employee. And this is according to the New York Times. Yet the constant risk of losing top talent has been enough to make companies reconsider their strict RTO mandates. And also, research has shown that companies that put pressure on employees to return to the office are more likely to experience turnover issues than those that don't. Companies that have mandated a strict return to the office 3 days a week without first seeking employee input are experiencing the most angst. They're the ones struggling with the retention and the recruitment. And some of those companies that she works with have even scaled in response to employee backlash. So who's winning the whole return to office fight? So the companies that are seeing the most success with returning to the office appear to be the ones that are making decisions with their employees rather making decisions for them. So take Ernst and Young, for example. So the global accounting and consulting firm weathered some employee criticism for its initial return to office announcement in June of 2021, when the firm told employees that they would be encouraged to spend 40 to 60% of their time in the office. Their plan was put on pause, though, the end of the year as COVID-19 cases kicked back up again throughout the United States. And leaders used that time to ask employees about their reluctance to come into the office. Common threads stood out to Frank, who's Eastwise's chief well-being officer, that employees weren't sure what to do about pet care or childcare. And in response, it was announced a fund in February 2022 to reimburse up to $800 per year for commuting pet care and dependent cost care costs for each of its 55,000 plus US employees. And the fund, which is ongoing, had an immediate positive impact on employers in office attendance. So since then, it's been seen that they've had a 150% uptick in office attendance across the United States. So it didn't take a complete rehaul of their return to office policies to make employees happy. They just needed to listen to their people and understand what specifically was problematic for them and offer resources to address that. So to wrap it all up, some organizations are still in denial that people aren't coming back to the office, and some have moved into the acceptance phase where they're ready to think more creatively or differently. But it's going to take time for them to get there all together. So, with that being said, that concludes today's segment. And I hope this segment was helpful. I hope you guys learned something new from it, and I hope that it was useful. Of course, share this video with somebody you care about or somebody that you know can benefit from this segment. So I'm Mya Henry. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's segment of News You Can Use, and I'll see you guys in the next segment.